If your daughter was kidnapped and a stranger claiming to be a dead relative returned, what would you do? Today's episode of Beyond the Gates leaves viewers stunned as Nicole is confronted with the horrifying truth that her youngest daughter, June, has been kidnapped by a stranger. Nicole is stunned as she steps out into the backyard on a sultry afternoon, where the sunlight filters through the trees swaying gently in the late summer breeze. In that moment, a shiver runs down her spine. June's familiar giggles are no longer audible. The mother's heart begins to pound, as if it wants to burst out of her chest as her eyes scan the flower-filled yard where her youngest daughter used to play every day. Everything seems normal, except for one detail that makes her feel suffocated. The old swing chair is still gently swaying, as if someone just got up and left. And on it, not June, but a rag doll with her face brutally slashed, the cut so deep that threads stuck out like fake organs. The doll's eyes, one intact, the other gouged out, hanging by a tangled piece of thread. The doll's white dress was stained with mud and something darker. Nicole wasn't sure what it was, but her heart told her it wasn't mud. It had all happened so fast, so suddenly, so strangely. She began to run through the garden, calling her name, but there was no response except the wind and the rustle of dry leaves under her feet. Nicole's steps were heavy and unsteady, as if someone was pulling her back, as if every speck of dust in the garden was trying to hold her back, not letting her reach the truth that lay ahead. Every time she looked into the thick bushes, she imagined June's frightened eyes looking out, her little hand waving for help from somewhere she couldn't see. She checked every corner, from the small shed in the corner to the stone table in the distance where she usually sat eating her cookies. But everything was empty. No sign of a struggle, no crying, no clues. Only the doll. Like a cold declaration of war. The silence became thick, heavy, as if the world had frozen over just to punish her for a mistake she didn't know she had made. In Nicole's mind, vague but terrifying images began to form. She remembered the nights when June had often had nightmares and screamed in her sleep. She thought it was just a child's imagination. She had comforted her that there was nothing to be afraid of, that everything was just a dream. But now, that fear seemed to have become a reality. She remembered June's story of a friend in the mirror who whispered to her every night. At the time, she had laughed, thinking that her daughter was making things up. But now, each seemingly innocent detail became a gruesome piece of a bloody picture that was gradually emerging before her eyes. Nicole rushed into the house, her hands shaking as she grabbed the phone. But as she dialed the number, the lights in the house flickered strangely, the phone screen went black and then suddenly lit up again with a strange message: "Don't look for her, or you'll lose more." In an instant, her legs went weak, her whole body collapsed under the weight of the shock. She understood that this was not just an ordinary disappearance. This was a message. A warning. A punishment from some force that could not be explained by common sense. And above all, it was a game that had been set up in advance, a sick game that could cost her daughter's life. From that moment on, Nicole was no longer a normal mother. She became a truth hunter, someone obsessed with every little detail, every sound in the night, every change in the wind. She began investigating the house's past, digging through old records in the local library. She discovered that the land where they lived had been the site of a series of mysterious disappearances decades ago, most of them children. No one had found the culprit. No bodies. No traces. Only rumors of an ancient, sealed gate, which had been the boundary between the human world and a darker realm, where time was warped and everything good was twisted into a nightmare. Nicole began to have strange dreams, June standing in the middle of a pitch-black forest, surrounded by shadows, withered hands reaching out from the ground. She dreamed that she was being pulled into another space, cold, without sound, without light, only the whispering sounds like the cries of hundreds of children trapped forever. In her dream, she saw the ragged-faced doll open its eyes and smile. But it was no longer a dream. When she woke up, the doll was lying next to her pillow, soaked with water and dirt. Embroidered in dried blood on its dress were 3 words: "We wait." And then, as each day passed, Nicole gradually realized that she was no longer alone in her own house. Lights kept turning on and off in the middle of the night. Objects moved. Footsteps echoed from the attic. And worse, the familiar sound of June's laughter ringing out at 3 a.m. when she couldn't be there. Faced with extreme fear and complete helplessness, Nicole had no choice but to enter the forbidden area where the ancient gate was buried underground, mentioned in the old maps of the town. It was a place no one had dared to touch since the mass disappearances of 1958. But this time, she was no longer afraid. She was willing to give everything, even her soul, to save her daughter. She knew that there was a portal, not just a physical portal, but an entrance to another dimension, where time stood still, where souls were forever trapped and grown in silence. When Nicole touched the moss-covered stone covered with strange symbols, the ground shook slightly, and an echo echoed from the ground like the whisper of a demon. A crack opened, leading her into the thick darkness. The cold cut through her skin, the screams were muffled, and the last light went out behind her. She knew that she had crossed a line from which no one had ever returned. And then, in that darkness, she heard June's voice, not a scream of terror, but a soft, weak, and earnest call. "Mom!" And then, in that deep darkness, Nicole followed June's call, each step sinking deeper into the cold mud of a cursed world. Shadows stretched around, their eyes glowing red like 1,000 years of suppressed hatred. In an instant, she saw her daughter standing there, her eyes lifeless, her skin pale, her small hand holding that broken doll. Nicole rushed forward, hugging her, but at that moment, a voice rang out in her head, cold and cruel, "Once you enter here, there is no way out." The whole space shook, images from the past, from the present, from the children who had been captured, all appeared in chaos. As if Nicole was being swallowed into the mind of an ancient entity, where all the laws of life and death were distorted. She screamed, begging for forgiveness, begging to be saved to save June, but then a flash of light, June suddenly raised her head, her eyes shining black as the abyss. In a split second, Nicole realized the most terrible thing: it was no longer June. The girl had been taken over by something. Another soul was residing in that body, controlling her like a puppet. And it was June, or the thing impersonating June, who whispered one last sentence into Nicole's ear. "Now I will stay in your place." When Nicole woke up, she was sitting on a swing in her garden, holding a doll with a torn face. Everything around was strangely quiet. The house behind her seems to have been abandoned for a long time. No one knows who she is. No one remembers June. All records, photos, memories, have been erased as if they had never existed. But every night, at 3 a.m., people say they can hear a soft lullaby coming from the garden, and a woman laughing in the darkness. We will reveal more haunting and mysterious details in the next episodes of Beyond the Gates. Don't miss it! Follow and subscribe to our channel today so you don't miss any of the terrifying moments behind that mysterious gate. We promise, the truth behind it is still to be revealed, and next time, it might be your turn.